How are you guys today? Welcome to Eat Happy Hour, my weekly free online class where I talk about all sorts of things that will help you take the guilt and stress out of nutrition and health. So thank you for being here today. I'm really excited about this. I love teaching about all these things, all these topics. Last week I did my first class, and actually last 2 weeks I did the same class because I made a mistake. But if you are new here and you missed last week's class and you want a recording of that, let me know. And I will send that to you. If you have been following me, if you're on my email list already, you should have gotten a link to that. But these videos, after they go live, they will be uploaded to a place where you have to have a password to access them. So, and I send that out in my email. So let me know if you didn't get that. I'm happy to get that to you. But today, I'm going to be talking about nutrition basics, macros, micros, and more, and I'm really excited about this. So if you are new and if you just barely somehow found me, hello and welcome. Or if you are a friend or someone that I know or you've been following along for a while, I'm so glad that you're here. And also if you're catching the replay. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Stephanie and I'm the founder of Eat Happy Nutrition. I'm a holistic nutritionist and an eating psychology coach and a personal trainer and a mom of 3. And like I said, my goal here with these classes and really with everything I do is to help you take the guilt and stress out of nutrition and health. And I am so passionate about that. So, oops, sorry, muted the microphone. So what I'm doing here today is I don't want to, so if you're one of those people who you get overwhelmed by all the nutrition information out there, I get it, and I know I used to be one of those people. You can buy were like diet books or program books, and I would get really uptight of like, well, who should I trust? And like, what should I eat? And how should I do this? And there's so many ways to do it, and it used to really bother me, and I was kind of like on the hunt for the perfect diet. So what I want to do today, I'm not going to prescribe a diet for you, but I also want to say that I don't believe that information is what will save us. So this class probably, as much as it's awesome, it's probably not going to change your life. You're probably not going to go out after you watch today and like change everything about the way you eat and like alter your life completely, because I don't think information really has the power to do that. If it did, you probably would have changed a long time ago. But what I want to do is, if you feel confused or overwhelmed by the amount of information out there, I just kind of want to give you a good foundation of things that I think are important, some science that I feel like is easy to understand and important to focus on so that you can go out and make informed food decisions. This is not going to get rid of all of your cravings. This is not going to make you lose 100 pounds after you hear this. It's just information, and I think it will be really helpful for you. But just to set the stage, I'm not trying to stress you out about the way you eat or make you feel bad or make you feel like you have to change. I just want to teach you what I believe is the most important things to focus on and to understand about food, and to kind of give you a good foundation to go from there. So let's just dive in. Let's dive right into the topic. So food is made up of chemicals. So as a holistic nutritionist, I want to tell you that not all chemicals are bad, and actually everything is made up of chemicals. So there are some chemicals that are essential for healthy and normal body function, and those chemicals are called nutrients. So when we study nutrition, we're essentially studying what are the nutrients, what does our body need, how much does it need, and what happens if we don't get enough of it. Disease is what happens. I'll give it away. So there are 6 classes of nutrients. And I'm going to break these down further, but these are kind of the big classes of nutrients. So there are carbohydrates, lipids, which are fats, proteins, and those 3 make up macronutrients. So I'll put those on this hand. And then there are micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals. And then the 6th one is water, which of course we all know we have to survive. I'm not going to be talking about water today. So there are lots of other components. I have my notes over here that I'm looking at. There are lots of other components of food that are important, things that give food its flavor and its texture and color, and that have different effects on our body. Like, for instance, caffeine. Food also has phytochemicals, meaning chemicals that come from plants that are really, really important to our health, like antioxidants. I'm sure you've heard that word. Polyphenols. I'm not going to go into those today. That's a topic for a whole other class and really fascinating. But what I'm going to focus on today are the big pieces that are easy to understand and that make up the bulk of the food that you're eating and that really make a big difference. Fiber is another substance that is super important to our health, but it's not technically a nutrient. But I will talk a little bit more about fiber when I talk about carbohydrates in a minute. So macros and micros. So when you hear the word macro, you should think big, and then micro means small. So you think of a microwave making tiny waves. You wouldn't have a macro wave in your kitchen. So macro is small, micro is big. Because relatively macronutrients, our body needs a lot of those. That's the bulk of what food is made up of, is macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs. And then the micronutrients are the smaller things that are just as essential to our bodies, but we need them in much smaller amounts. So like iron is a macro or a micronutrient because we need a small amount of iron compared to how much protein we need. So protein we need a lot of, and iron or other like vitamins we need a small amount of. So that's the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients. And I throw these terms around a lot in my videos, and I had a client recently who was like, "What are macronutrients? Like, I don't even know what that means. Can you explain that?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, of course I can. I just forget that a lot of people don't know, and that I used to not know what these things are. So I'm sorry that I have been throwing these things around and maybe confusing you. So hopefully this will clear that up. You might have heard of the new, like, I wouldn't say diet craze. It's not exactly a diet, but you might have heard of the term counting your macros. That's like the new hottest trend in the nutrition and weight loss world. That I'm aware of, that people are doing to lose weight. So what does that mean? That means people are counting or tracking, calculating how much of the macronutrients their body needs to lose fat, and then they have those numbers, and then they fit their food into those numbers. So for instance, if you find out your body needs 118 grams of protein a day, you would adjust your diet and you would track it, and it's all very formulated. So if you've heard of IIFYM, that stands for if it fits your macros. And I'm not against this, let me just say that outright, but that's what that means. When people track their macros or count macros, they are calculating those big nutrients, protein, fat, and carbs, and figuring out what amounts their body needs to do what they want it to do. So everyone has unique macronutrient needs. There are like set prescriptions, I guess, that's safer to stay, like you wouldn't ever eat like 500 grams of protein. I don't even think that's possible. You want to have a good balance. So when we talk about a balanced diet, that essentially means just having a balance of those macronutrients. So you wouldn't want to have a diet that is like 98% carbohydrate and 2% protein and 0% fat. That is not a balanced diet. So it is interesting and instructive to track your macros if you're interested in doing that, to figure out what your diet is made up of. And when I did this, I found that I was eating a lot less protein than I thought I was. So that's what that means. To get a balanced diet really means to get a balance of those macronutrients. Not that you have to have the exact same amounts of all three of those, but to have a healthy range and to make sure that one is not way higher than the other, because our body needs all three of them to function optimally and to be healthy and avoid disease. So we'll talk a little bit more about what those mean, but that's what we mean when we say a balanced diet. And I'm going to give you the secret to weight loss here as a side note. Basically all diets, what they're doing to be effective is tweaking the balance of macronutrients. So you think about like the Atkins diet is really high in protein and really low in carbohydrate. So they're tweaking, they're messing with that ratio to kind of shock your body into letting go of excess body fat. It works. It doesn't work long term because your body cannot live long term with such a small amount of carbohydrates, but that's the secret to weight loss. And really that's what every diet is doing. That's what every book and every program and everything, that's what they're doing, is essentially giving you their prescription for what their Bible is for the percentage of macronutrients. Whether they put it in those terms or not, that's really what diets are doing. So let's break down the 3 macronutrients. I'm going to watch my time here, so I will save time at the end for questions. If you have any questions throughout, please type them into the chat box. I will save time at the end to answer those. And if you're watching the replay of this, you're welcome to, you can still comment and I'll still see it. Or you can email me or whatever if you have any questions, and I'll either just get back to you or I'll do another video or another class on it. Well, I'll get back to you anyway, but just so you know, I'm totally open to questions here. So if I see anything pop up, I'll definitely answer that. So the 3 macronutrients are carbohydrates, lipids, and protein. So I'm going to cover carbohydrates first because I think those are the big bad guys now, right? Like you hear about all these low carb and no carb diets, and that's the craze. Carbohydrates come from plants. They are a main source of fuel for our body. And when our bodies, so carbohydrates are essentially the starches and the sugars that are found in grains, vegetables, fruits, legumes, and our bodies break those down to the simplest form of glucose, which is essential to the function of our body. Our brain's main food is glucose. So without glucose, our brain dies. So you have to have some carbohydrate, and your body actually has these amazing mechanisms. So if you were in a situation of starvation, your body can actually convert other things into glucose because it's so important to your body, to your brain. So that's what carbohydrates are. They come from plants. So anything that's a plant is a carbohydrate. So they are not bad because obviously we want to eat plants. We want to eat as many plants as we possibly can fit into every single day. So carbohydrates are plants. They are good. Lipids are the second macronutrient, and I'm just going to call those fats, even though lipids does refer to fats and oils, excuse me, and those are triglycerides, but also fat-like substances that are found in food, like for instance, cholesterol is a lipid. So it's not technically a fat. But fats are essential also to our bodies. They provide structure for our cells. Every cell needs fat. They carry fat-soluble vitamins from our food. So the fat-soluble vitamins are A, D, and E. Also K, but that's a less known one. And fats provide the starting material for making, which is cholesterol, for making hormones. So you have to have a certain amount of fat in your diet to be able to make the hormones that your body needs. So sources of fat in your diet include obviously things like butter and oil. Animal products are a good source of fat. So there's fat found in meat, there's fat found in dairy. And then of course we have coconut and avocado and olives. So those are the main sources of fat. And then proteins are also a macronutrient. We need a lot of protein to be healthy. And protein is made up of smaller building blocks called amino acids. You've probably heard that term as well. So protein helps build and maintain our body's structure. It is essential to the health of our body, to the repair of tissue, to our immune system, and it really helps regulate a lot of body processes. Without enough protein, we struggle and we're not healthy. So animal products are obviously the most concentrated source of protein that we can get. Grains and vegetables and legumes do have, vegetables being the lowest, do have some protein in them. So it's possible to get some protein from those sources, but the highest concentration of protein is in animal products like meat and dairy. So let's talk a little bit about micros. So the micronutrients, remember, are vitamins and minerals. So vitamins, there are lots of vitamins, right? Like I'm sure you've heard of these. And if you're thinking of like the tablets that you swallow, that's not what vitamins are. Vitamins are in things, and those tablets are made up of chemical vitamins, of the chemicals of vitamins. But they are so important to our health. They regulate all sorts of things like blood clotting, what else did I write down? Energy production, calcium balance. They keep our organs and our tissues functioning and healthy. So vitamins are not a source of energy. You cannot just eat vitamins and get calories. They're not a source of energy like macronutrients are, but they are important in letting the energy that we ingest from food be broken down into energy. So when we eat the protein, we need certain vitamins to metabolize that and digest that and get it to where it needs to go to give us the energy that we need. So I mentioned the fat-soluble vitamins. So there are two classes of vitamins. There are fat-soluble and water-soluble. So what does that mean? Soluble, let's go back to junior high science here, that it is like dissolved in, I guess. So fat-soluble, meaning these vitamins need fat in order to be absorbed in our body. So those are vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and then vitamin K, which let's just focus on A, D, and E for our class today. So we have to have fat in our body for us to be able to absorb and use those vitamins in our food. Our body also stores fat-soluble vitamins. So we have vitamin A stored in our body. So we need less of it from our food than we do the water-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins are B and C, and there are 8 B vitamins. I'm not going to go too much into that, but those are water-soluble, meaning we pee them out if we have too much, and we need to constantly replenish our supply of those every single day. B vitamins are very much involved in the energy pathways in our body. So you've probably heard of people taking like a B complex vitamin because they don't have enough energy. So B vitamins are really important to giving us the energy we need. So it's important to get those from food. So they're involved in energy metabolism. So minerals there's lots of different minerals, and if you remember the periodic table, we're going a little bit back to that. You didn't know this was going to be so sciencey, right? So there are actually micro minerals and macro minerals, meaning, again, micro and macro, big and small. Your body needs a lot more of some minerals than others. So the minerals that are most abundant in the body are calcium, obviously, potassium, sodium, magnesium, phosphorus, and chloride. So those, I don't think that's all of them. That's just ones I wrote down, but those ones are important. Sodium is involved in every single cell of our body. You can't survive for very long on a completely sodium-free diet. Potassium is found in plants, so you need a lot of potassium. I think the recommended amount per day is like 100 milligrams. Ooh, is that right? Don't quote me on that. I should have written that down before I said it. But we need a lot more of those than of other minerals, trace minerals or microminerals like iron, zinc, copper, manganese, fluoride, iodine. Those are trace minerals, and we just need a little bit of those, but they're still incredibly important. Mineral deficiencies are pretty rare in the United States, and I'm sure you've heard of the two most common mineral deficiencies are calcium deficiency and iron deficiency. They're common enough that you probably know someone, or maybe you are someone who is iron deficient. That's a lot more common for women because iron is stored in our blood, and because of menstruation, women lose iron. And so they don't need more iron than men, but we need to be replenishing our supply maybe more than we are. And there are also things that we can do in our diet to make iron more or less bioavailable, meaning certain foods make iron more available than others. I'm not going to get into that today either, just to give you an overview of what the macro and micro minerals are. So if you were to look on a label, and I should have brought like a package of food in here so I could show you, but if you look on a label, a lot of those are labeled. So if you look on like Cheerios or something, for instance, they'll have, I think, and this isn't true on every label, it depends on what it is, but a lot of labels will list the minerals that are in there. Like they'll say how much calcium, how much iron, how much zinc, how much copper is in each of those, because they're really important. And a lot of foods are fortified too. I should mention that. So like vitamin D, I believe is what they put, yes, it is what they fortify milk with. So when you see fortified milk, that means they've added in vitamin D. So they can add in the chemical structure of those vitamins so that our bodies can get them, because a lot of people don't get enough vitamins. So a word on supplements. When you're looking at vitamins, like taking a multivitamin, I would look very carefully at what is in it. So don't just go to Walmart and buy like whatever cheapy vitamin you see on the shelf. I think this is like a really corrupt industry, and not necessarily corrupt, that's probably too strong of a word, but be conscious of what decisions you're making around your vitamins. So again, because our bodies store vitamins A, D, and E, if you buy a multivitamin and it has like 600% of your daily vitamin A requirement, you're getting too much vitamin A if you take that every single day on top of whatever you're eating. And more or too much of anything is just as bad as not enough. So really the goal is to find that healthy middle ground. So I think for the most part, we can get most of what we need from real whole foods. Now, I do supplement with things, and I think I've done a post on this before. I do take magnesium because I feel like that's something that pretty much everyone is deficient in. This is a whole nother topic for another class. I'm getting sidetracked, but just be careful when you go out and buy multivitamins, or don't take multivitamins unless you feel like educated about reading the label and knowing what is in that, because it is possible to get too much. And it's okay if you get too much vitamin C to an extent. Some of the B vitamins are okay. You don't want to get way too much niacin, that's a B vitamin, because your body will excrete the excess vitamin C. And if you've noticed, like after you take a multivitamin, if you have like nuclear green pee, then you're just getting really expensive pee. You're just peeing out a lot of the vitamin that you just took, because if it's too much, your body can't absorb it, can't use it, and it's just like useless. So just be aware of that when you're looking for supplements. If you have questions about supplements, let me know. I know that's a whole other topic. I should probably not have even brought that up, but that's a question I get a lot, is about supplements. So just be aware that your body stores the fat-soluble vitamins and you don't want to have too much. Okay, so let's talk about calories. This is what I'm most excited about this class. So this is one of those areas that I think most women think calories are like the most important part of nutrition. And when you study nutrition, you really just need to know how many calories are in what. And that is absolutely not true. So a calorie is really just a measurement of energy. So when I teach like a nutrition class to girls, like teenage or young girls at our church, which I've done a couple times, I always ask, what is a calorie? And everyone's like, I don't know. So a calorie is really just a measurement of energy, and it's actually pretty abstract. 1 kilocalorie, is the amount of energy or heat that it takes to raise 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. So like, what? Exactly. So calories matter, and there is something to the idea of calories in, calories out, that if you're taking in way more energy than you are expending, then you will gain weight. But I do also want to impress upon you that calories are not the most important thing. And actually, I focus very little on calories in my own life and in my work with clients, because they're way less important than we give them credit for. And they've kind of been built up as like, this is what we all need to be striving for, is less calories, less calories, less calories. But that is not the case. So the way they measure how many calories are in something is in a machine called a bomb calorimeter. So what they do is, let's say they're trying to measure how many calories are in a piece of chicken. So they put the piece of chicken in this machine and essentially burn it down, and however much it raises the water. So again, anyway, it's very technical, but your machine or your body is not a bomb calorimeter. So, and your metabolism is not a math problem. So it doesn't work that way of to say, okay, if I only eat 800 calories and I'm exercising X number of hours a day and I'm expending this much energy per day, then I'll have a calorie deficit and I'll lose weight. Boom, like that. It doesn't work like that. Your body is not a closed system like the bomb calorimeter is, and there are so many things that influence your ability to burn calories that are kind of out of our control. A lot of them are your emotions, your environment, your body temperature, your amount of sleep that you get. Like so many things influence your ability to burn calories. So don't get too hung up on how many calories you are taking in. It's good to be aware of how many calories you have. And again, I think this is a good exercise to do, just like tracking your macros for a couple days to get an idea of what your diet looks like. It's a good idea to track your food and just get an overall big picture of how many calories you're taking in on an average day. Not to stress out about it, but just to have that information and to know, okay, I'm eating about 2,500 calories a day, and then you can see what that is made up of, which I'll talk more about in a minute. And then you'll know if I don't exercise at all and I just sit on the couch, then yes, I'm going to gain weight. The gaining weight part is a lot easier to predict than the losing weight part, because our bodies are programmed to hold on to weight. That's just how they are. Genetically, it's just what we do. It's a lot harder to lose weight than to gain weight, which you know. I'm just confirming this that you already know. So calories matter, and they do matter to weight loss, but not as much as you've probably been thinking. So when you think of like weight loss and like diet food, you'll see like those 100-calorie packs of like Oreos, okay? So if you're like, yay, 100 calories, that's nothing. I could burn that off by running for an hour. I don't know exactly how many calories you burn running for an hour, but it's probably about 100. It's kind of depressing how few calories you burn in exercise, for real. But so you would eat this thinking, okay, it's only 100 calories. This is good. But again, the number of calories matters far less than the quality of the calories. So if you were to put a 100-calorie pack of Oreos and a 100-calorie pack of broccoli into the bomb calorimeter, that machine would not know the difference, right? Like it would just burn it and it would know how many calories, and it would know that they were the same, that the 100 calories of broccoli and 100 calories of Oreos are the same. But to our bodies are much more intelligent than a bomb calorimeter, and our bodies know the difference between 100 calories of broccoli and 100 calories of Oreos. They process them completely differently, and they have a completely different effect on your body. If you were to eat 100 calories of broccoli, it would digest completely differently. It would affect your energy level completely differently than if you were to eat a 100-calorie pack of Oreos. So calories matter, but they do not matter as much as you think. So what matters more is the quality of the calories. So everything really has calories. My shirt has calories. My books have calories. The chair you're sitting on has calories. If you were to put that into a machine and burn it, it would have a certain number of calories. But that does not mean that I'm going to eat my shirt because it's lower in calories than butter. You should not base your food decisions on what is lower in calories than something else, because that's just as dumb as eating a piece of fabric. And it might have a lot of fiber in it. I don't know. I mean, it'd probably keep you full for a while if you wanted to do that. But your body knows the difference. So in the same way that you would consider eating your shirt, I want you to start looking at the way you consider eating those 100-calorie packs of food. So when you're looking at the quality of the calories, what you really need to be looking at is the ingredient list. And that's what's going to give you the most information about what is in that food. So if you go to the store and you buy a head of broccoli, I'm stuck on the broccoli thing right now, it's okay. Broccoli and Oreos are like what my go-to foods that I talk about. I don't know why. I don't even like Oreos anymore, but I do like broccoli. But if you were to go to the store and buy broccoli, it doesn't have an ingredient list on it because it just has broccoli in it. If you were to buy a 100-calorie pack of Oreos, like the ingredient list is like the size of the package, right? And a lot of them are like, what does that mean? But again, the food manufacturer doesn't want you to know what's in it because they're like, that doesn't matter. Just eat it because it has only 100 calories in it. Yay! But that's what matters more than anything else is the ingredient list. So the broccoli has all the vitamins and minerals and everything your body needs, fiber and all this awesome stuff that your body's like doing a dance party inside because it's so, your cells are so happy to get that. That's not what happens when you eat a 100-calorie pack of Oreos. Your body's like, what is this? I don't know. And it digests it. And if you eat, so again, the dose makes the poison here. I'm not saying eating a 100-calorie pack of Oreos is bad or full-fat Oreos. Whatever you do is fine. But just be aware of the balance of those foods. If you're eating way more 100-calorie packs of Oreos than you are of broccoli, your body is not going to thrive. It's going to take that information that you're giving it and be like, okay, I guess this is what we do, so we'll just store it as fat. Done. Because it's not getting what it needs to thrive. It's not getting all the vitamins and minerals. You're not going to have energy. You're not going to have healthy digestion. So this is not to make you feel bad. This is just a fact that if you don't give your body what it needs, it's not going to perform in the way that you want it to perform. And it's not going to look the way that you want it to look. However, looking the way you want it to look, that's another topic for a class. That is more out of the realm of your control. The way you look matters a lot less than the way you treat your body. So what I want you to focus on is not the calories, but the way that it makes you feel. So next time you eat a 100-calorie pack of Oreos, have you ever even eaten one of those? I haven't. Gosh, why do I keep talking about them? Next time you eat any non-plant food, non-whole food, I guess, notice how it makes you feel. Just be curious about the sensation of what that does. How does your stomach feel when you eat that? How does your head feel? What are your energy levels? How more? Was it more the pleasure on your taste buds and in your tongue than in your stomach? And just be curious and be willing to ask those questions, because that is what is going to lead to change, not the knowledge of counting your calories and knowing how many you get and feeling like, yay, I checked the box, I only ate 1,800 calories today, or whatever your goal is. Please don't ever eat less than 1,200 calories in a day, by the way. Please, never. That's like what people in a coma need, is 1,200 calories a day. So don't ever let anyone talk you into going on any diet that gives you less than 1,200 calories a day. That is like the threshold of never drop below that. You will not feel very good after a couple of days. Okay, so again, the food that you're giving your body is the fuel. So let's talk a little bit more about reading a food label, because I think this is what is the most useful takeaway. Charlotte, mind blown. I'm so glad. And I'm so glad you're here, Charlotte. So when you look at a food label, and again, I should have brought one in here, but that's okay. We all know what they look like. And if you are watching this and you have access to something with a label, get it out. So when you look at a food label, again, the number one most important thing to look at is the ingredient list. A good rule of thumb is that if sugar is in the top 3, maybe 5, depending on the food, ingredients, it's probably not awesome for you. This is a rule from Michael Pollan. And if you haven't heard of Michael Pollan, please go buy one of his books and read them. He has some awesome, speaking of mind-blowing books, Food Rules. I'm blanking on his other books. I'll post them on my Facebook page because I love him and he changed my life. But that's one of his rules. So when you're looking at the label, you just want to be looking and just scanning for like what's familiar, what's in this, because that's what matters most, is the quality of the calories. So when you're looking at it and you're seeing all these words that you don't know how to pronounce, let alone know what they are, that should be a little bit of a warning light going off in your brain of like, okay, this is not food. And again, that's not always a bad thing. Our bodies are resilient and they're made to handle lots of stuff. But if that's the bulk of your diet is being made up of things that are not actually food, your body will send you a message in the form of symptom or disease. So just know that that food that you're putting in doesn't make you a bad person, but it will have a consequence of sending a mixed signal to your body of what you want it to do, whether store fat or give you energy or not give you energy or make you constipated or give you cancer. Just kidding, I'm not going to talk about cancer. But when you look at the ingredient list, just watch for things that you don't know what they are. A good rule of thumb, again, is if you have it in your kitchen, it's okay in a processed food. I'm not totally anti-processed food. I do buy a lot of snacks and things like that from Costco. Costco is it's the most economical place to shop for health food. Just a plug for Costco there. I wish they paid me to say that, but they didn't. But you can go there and you can get all sorts of things. Like they have these like coconut clusters. So if it's something that you recognize and you're like, oh, that's food, it's fine. It's totally fine. So don't get hung up on the percentages right now. Just think about eating food and looking at the ingredient list for what is food. Once you've mastered that and you've gotten really proficient at looking at the ingredient list, you can then move on to looking at the other information that's on there. And this gets more into counting your macros, I guess, but you can look at, the next thing I look at after the ingredient list is how much protein is in it, and then how many carbs, and then how many of those carbs come from fiber. So I mentioned I talk a little bit about fiber. When you're looking at a label, it will say total carbohydrate. Let's say it has 27 grams of carbs. That seems to be like the number of carbs on a lot of things. And then you look at the fiber in that, just disregard everything else. The amount of fiber in that is 2 grams. So the fiber is essentially like eating your shirt. It is not digested. It's not absorbed. So all it's doing is acting as like a broom to push things out of you. It's kind of like it's gathering things that your body needs to get rid of and pulling them out. So fiber is essential to your health. You have to have fiber in your diet, or you know what happens in the short term, but in the long term, it's bad news if you don't have enough fiber. So when you're looking at the label, a good range to shoot for of amount of fiber in a day recommended by the government is 25 grams of fiber per day. I think even higher than that is even better. But don't start eating like 100 grams of fiber tomorrow because you will have digestive problems. But slowly building up to 25 grams. And again, that you can track your food and figure out how much fiber am I getting in a day. There are trillions of fiber supplements on the market. A lot of them are really good and useful. And I have a lot of experience in this area. So if you have questions about fiber supplements, shoot me a message. But so you want to look at the fiber. So the carbohydrate minus the fiber is actually how much carbohydrate is in it, because the fiber doesn't count. It's under the umbrella of carbohydrate, but it doesn't count as a carbohydrate because it's not absorbed. It doesn't spike your blood sugar. It doesn't have any effect on your blood sugar. Other than if it's high in fiber, it will help to not spike your blood sugar, which is why you want it. So when you're looking at the carbohydrate, you would minus the amount of fiber from the amount of carbohydrate to figure out how much is really in it. So if you look at the protein and the carbs, then the last thing I look at is the amount of fat, and that matters less to me. I will put a plug in for please do not ever buy anything that is fat-free, like purposefully altered to be fat-free, like fat-free milk, fat-free yogurt, particularly fruit-flavored fat-free yogurt is like the worst food ever. I just don't like that kind of food. There are exceptions of certain types of yogurt. If you want, then I could let you know about that later. But just be aware, and after you've looked at the ingredient list, you'll know what source the fat comes from. So when you're looking at the fat source, you don't want too much vegetable oil. So I'm not going to say like never eat vegetable oil again, because honestly, if you start looking, you're going to see that that's most of what the oils in processed food are, and that's okay to an extent. But know that vegetable oil like soybean oil, canola oil, margarine, those things lead to inflammation in the body, and they lead to disease over time, to an imbalance. So you want to look at the source of fat. Fat is good. Fat is fun. It tastes good and it's good for you, but the source of the fat does matter. So if it's like, for instance, at Costco, you can get a big bag of popcorn and the ingredients are popcorn, coconut oil, and salt. Boom. That's a good food. You can buy that food, even though it comes in a package. Because the ingredient list is short, everything on that ingredient list is something that you could buy and make in your own kitchen, but you don't have to because you can buy it in this package. So I'm not saying, cut out convenience foods 100%, but just be careful of the source of the fat. If it is from an animal product, like steak or milk or yogurt or cheese or chicken, I do make an effort to get organic, especially dairy products. Organic animal products go a long way. If you're anti-organic and you just heard the word organic and you're like, la, 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 then just ignore what I'm saying. But if you have wondered about, okay, I've heard about the benefits of organic food and I'm not sure where to start with animal products. That's the most important thing. And maybe I'll do another class on that. I'm going to run out of time here because I keep going off on tangents. But the source of the fat matters more than the amount of the fat. So once you've looked at the ingredient list and you've established that it's a good source of fat, like coconut oil, you're good to go. It doesn't matter how much is in it. You're going to know in your body, like your body's going to get what it needs. If you're living on organic ice cream, then obviously you're not doing your body any favors. So I'm not giving you permission to go free reign and eat 100% a diet full of fat. But you need more fat than you think you do, and you're probably not getting enough good fat in your diet. If you've ever experienced low energy, an inability to gain weight, even an inability to lose weight, it could be because you're eating too many artificially fat-free products and you need to have a healthy source of fat in your diet. If you are one of those people who has a phobia of fat and you're like, I can't eat more fat because it's going to make me fat. First of all, let me say that fat in your diet does not equal fat on your body. Those two things do not equate to each other. But if you have a psychological hang-up with fat, take a fat supplement, take an omega-3 supplement and get your fat that way, so that if you've been eating fat-free products your whole life and you're terrified to add in whole milk, then take a fat supplement so that you're at least getting what you need and you're meeting your body's needs while you work through your fat issues as a nutrient, not as a human being. So, okay, I'm up to 3/4 of an hour, so I wanted to leave time for questions. So if you're watching live, there's a couple of you watching live, and I'm so glad that you're here and you've stuck in this whole time. If there are any questions that you have, put them in the chat box and let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So when it comes to macronutrients and micronutrients, you really want to have ideally as many plants as possible in your diet. So again, plants are the source of all carbohydrates. So steak and yogurt, they don't have any carbs in them because, well, depending on what's added into the yogurt. Yogurt's a bad example. Let's say cheese. Cheese and steak don't have any carbs because they don't have any plants in them. So really, carbohydrates are made through plants. So grains, vegetables, you want to eat as many vegetables as humanly possible. And I like that mindset of abundance, like eat as much as you can. That's a lot easier and happier than don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat that. If you're one of those people who you have a history with dieting and restricting yourself, just try to fill your day with as many vegetables as you can fit in. Make it a game. You could measure and try to eat a pound of vegetables a day. That's a lot of vegetables. Have you ever tried that? You should. It's pretty fun. You'll probably be eating a lot of salad. The good thing about carbohydrates in vegetable form is that they give you all the fiber that you need and all of the vitamins and minerals that you need also. So plants really are the powerhouse of foods. When it comes to diets that cut them out or have you limit them, I'm just like, oh, that's bad news. That is not a road you want to go down. You don't ever want to put yourself in a scarcity mindset around vegetables. They are the ideal food. They are the pinnacle of what you should be eating. You cannot do better than vegetables. And I recognize a lot of people have maybe residual childhood issues with eating vegetables. And last week I talked about feeding vegetables to your kids. But really, you need vegetables in your life. So I'm not going to give you a free pass not to eat them anymore. I set a goal for myself this week to eat vegetables at every meal, and it's actually not that hard when you set it down that's what you're going to do. Okay, Kirsten, what's the best way to get protein without eating meat? So again, meat is the most concentrated source of protein, but it is absolutely possible to eat a meat-free diet and get enough protein. So I was vegan for 2 years, and you guys would not believe how many people ask me, well, how do you get your protein? And I'm like, how is this any of your business? Well, how about your cholesterol? But so I know that it's possible to get enough protein. So what you want to do is be very careful and be very conscious about getting enough. So if you don't want to eat meat, dairy is a great source of protein. I would get organic cheese. Cottage cheese is probably the highest protein food ever, aside from like protein powder. Cottage cheese is really high. So if you eat dairy, get some organic cottage cheese and let that be a daily staple for you. You will get plenty of protein. Again, whole grains do have protein in them. So if you are to eat brown rice, you are getting some protein. And vegetables do have some vegetables do have a small amount of protein in them. I don't think fruit has any protein. I should check that. But so just be conscious and plan because you do need protein. And one of the mistakes a lot of people make is like, well, I don't want to eat meat, and they cut out meat. And I did this, so I know. They cut out meat, and then suddenly they're iron deficient because they're getting to be anemic and they're not getting enough protein. So recognize that you do need protein, but you can play with that range of how much you need and experiment with it. The baseline for like the government recommendation is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So you'd have to do a little math program on that and figure out what's the minimum amount of protein. And again, you can play with that. These government requirements are not like the Bible by any means, but see how you feel. If you eat less meat, just make sure you're getting enough. Protein powders is something that I use every day. I know a lot of people don't like those, but if you can find a good one, which you can, and if you want, I'll tell you what I use. You can find good protein powders that you can throw into your smoothies with vegetables and fruits, and then you're getting all the vitamins and minerals, micros that you need, and macros. So that's really a great way that I use. I would be careful of a lot of the protein bars. Look at the ingredient list, and most of the stuff you'll be like, what is this? Because honestly, a lot of it is just not food. So you don't want to live on protein substitutes, but that is a good supplement for people who want to eat less meat. So dairy, protein powders or protein supplements, a good one. You can find vegan protein supplements as well that are made from sprouted plants. So the brand Garden of Life is what I have used for years, and I love their products. I wish that they would again pay me to say that because I've referred so many people to their brand, but I really love, and they're made from, so they have sprouted, like everything is sprouted in them, and they're amazing. They're very high in protein, almost as much as you would find from the whey protein powder. So that's a good option for protein. And again, just track your food. Try going meatless for 3 days and track your food and see how much protein you can get without meat. So you can play with that, but I just do want to emphasize it's absolutely possible to get enough protein without eating any meat. Not that I would advocate doing that. Again, I was vegan and I went back to not being vegan because my body likes to have more protein than I was getting before. But depending on your body, and this is all an experiment, look at it as an experiment and play with it. But it's absolutely possible to get enough protein. But you're going to need to consciously plan for that and make sure that you're getting enough. If you ever feel, and be intuitive about it, if you ever feel like you're not getting enough, or if you're feeling like, oh, I'm so tired, I am feeling so anemic, switch it up a little bit and do something different and let your body's feedback be your guide. If you feel awesome without meat, and a lot of people do, and they do great without meat, then awesome. Like, you don't need to eat meat. You don't have to listen to any experts like rules of what you have to do for your body. You can play around with it and take everything I say and just play with it and experiment and figure out what works best for you. Okay, so if there's any other questions, I do want to let you know while I'm waiting if anyone has any other questions. We have a couple minutes left before our hour is up. So this is on my Facebook page, so this is open to whoever is watching it. If you happen to hop on here without having signed up for it, I do want to let you know that I am taking this video down today because I want it to be a special thing for people who sign up for it and that I know are interested. So I will be sending out a link to the replay. If you want the replay, if you didn't catch the whole thing, or if you want to have this information for later, let me know and I'll put you on the list to get those emails. But it will be disappearing by the end of the day, just so you know. And again, I am going to be doing this most Thursdays. Okay, Charlotte, what's your feeling on bread? White or wheat, sprouted, okay to have both. Okay, bread. I love bread. I think hot bread is one of God's greatest gifts to humanity. I think it is so delicious. Again, with bread, so much junk into bread. So if at all possible, make your own bread so you know exactly what is in it. If you do not have time or don't want to make time, like I don't want to make time, I definitely buy store-bought bread. I'm not a homemade bread maker like my mom. Go to the store and look at the ingredient list. Give yourself 15 minutes, a half an hour to flip over every loaf of bread that you normally buy and look at the back and see what's in it. So there's all sorts of stuff in there like dough conditioners and colors and different extracts and things that you don't really need. So the brand of bread that I buy, I like Dave's Killer Bread and I like Alpine Valley bread. Again, I get those at Costco. Dave's Killer Bread is awesome. It's organic. Sprouted bread is even better. It is more expensive and it typically has to be kept in the freezer. If you were, really the pinnacle of bread were to be if you were making your own sprouted whole grain bread, like that's like up here. And then everything else all the way down to the level of like Wonder Bread. Again, Wonder Bread is not like bad, and I don't want you to feel bad if you eat it or feed it to your kids, but just recognize that it's not really food. So if you go to the store, and this is something I teach again to the girls at church, is if you go to the store and pick up a loaf of bread, you want the heaviest loaf possible. The heavier it is, probably it has more real ingredients in it. If it's light, oh my gosh, I just knocked over my water. If it's light and fluffy and you could just toss it up or use it as a pillow, it's probably not real bread. It's not whole grain and it's not giving your body what you need. It is enriched with a lot of those things, but it's not going to give you everything that you need. So it's okay to eat sometimes. White bread, I definitely eat sometimes. Tortillas, I don't like the taste of whole wheat tortillas, so that's something that I always have white flour tortillas. It's just what I like, but I don't eat them every single day, 12 of them, right? So you want to have this in moderation, but if you are a big bread eater and you have a sandwich Okay, I think I'm back. I lost connection for a second. But if you're one of those people who eats bread, a lot of bread, seek out the highest quality bread that you can possibly get. So again, the dose makes the poison. White bread sometimes is not going to kill you by any means, but you want to make sure that you are getting the best bread that you can. And there are absolutely good store-bought options out there. So that is there any questions? If you have any other questions, pop them in the chat. If not, I'm going to wrap this up because I just spilled water all over my desk. You guys, for real, I am such a mess over here. So that is it for Nutrition Basics class. If you have any questions, please let me know. This will be up for the rest of the day, so you're welcome to comment on here. I will be sending out the link to the replay to those who signed up later today, so you'll have access to that. If you did not sign up for this and you just happen to be watching it, it's not too late to sign up, and I will put the link in the chat box of this video for where you can go sign up and you can get the rest of the video. So thank you so much for giving me this time. This is so fun. I plan to do this every Thursday, but I'm actually going to Europe on Monday, so I'm not doing it for the next 2 Thursdays because I'll be in Europe. So yay for me. Sad I won't be doing this class. Maybe I'll do a live video from Austria or something. But I will be hopping back on in 2 weeks on May 25th and doing a class about eating healthy while you're traveling. And I'm going to put that into practice on my vacation, and I'll be back with lots of awesome tips for you. So I hope you enjoyed this today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.